Alright, so this is a video on how to nest. So, quick rundown, nesting is just a process if you have multiple parts, multiple plates that you have to cut out at once. So, if you have quite a few gussets of multiple quantities or polycarb stuff and you have to cut them out at once and you just want to make a big sheet where you can just cut everything out at once, you can use nesting to help you organize all the parts in a way that you don't waste a lot of material and it's also automated. So this video requires that you have the nesting utility installed. I'm not going to go over that. Basically what you want to do is if you want to create a nest, you click new, and then just like you can create a new part or a new assembly, you can scroll down and create a new nest. So this is how you know if you have the nesting utility installed and ready to go. So you just say create, and it'll take you to this blank document where you can nest stuff. So there's a little bit of prep work you have to do to your actual parts before you can nest them. So I'll just make two quick like gussets just to show you what it does. So I'm just gonna make a little L gusset right now. So none of this should be like, oh, made some random lines here. Anyway, but this should be, if you're nesting, you should know how to CAD, and none of this should look weird or surprising. So I'm just doing quick constraints and stuff here. Alright, so let's make this gusset 3 inches. I want it to be 1 inch wide. This is like a typical L gusset. And then let's make a full pattern in this. So none of your actual like making the part process changes really. It's just the same. It's just after you make it 3D, there's a little thing you have to do. So you want 3 holes, and then you want 3 down there. And then, yeah, whenever you're making gussets, you have these excess holes. You can just select all of them and then construction them, or you can right click and suppress them. Either one works. Finish that sketch. Let's extrude this. So you want 1/8 inch thickness gussets. Hit OK. And then let's add a couple fillets. I'm just doing the whole process because why not? Now with gussets, oh, where's that edge? Come on. It's gonna make, okay. Anyway, with gussets and fillets, like if you hit all fillets, it'll pick up this inside edge here, but it won't pick up the outside edges. So I just find it quicker to select all of them myself. Hit OK, and then I'm gonna set the material to aluminum. Now, the setting the material part isn't important for nesting itself, but I still do it, and I still like strongly recommend that everyone does it because it makes it so much easier when you're assembling everything together, and just it looks better. Alright, so here we have one gusset, so I'm going to save that as, okay, we'll just do gusset 1. Very, very interesting. And then let's make another one. I'll make this one quick. So let's see. What can I do? Oh, we'll do like a T gusset now. So also, if you're wondering why my Inventor doesn't automatically infer like if it's vertical or horizontal, is because I turned those settings off because I just find it really annoying when it automatically infers stuff that I don't want it to do. So I just turned it off. Equal, 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 equal. I think that's it. Alright, so let's make that 1 inch. Let's make that, oh, it's already picked it up. Wow. Oh yeah, that's true. So 2, and let's center the T gusset here. So let's do full pattern. There, we want this to be a 5 seconds. And let's say we want it to be half an inch from here. And then let's pattern it across. So let's do 3 of those and then down. Hit OK, select those. And construction them, finish. Alright, so there's our second gusset. 1/8 inch. Hit OK, let's set the material to aluminum. Let's do a fillet. So if you do check all fillets, it'll do like the inside edges. And then you can just add your selected ones like that. Let's see where. Okay. So we have our gusset done basically. So we have 2 gussets. We have an L gusset there, and then we have this T gusset. I'm going to save this as gusset 2. Alright, so let's say you have to cut these gussets out and you need like 4 of these L ones and 5 of these T ones, right? So now you go in nesting. Actually, we don't go in nesting. So if I'm going to nest these, what I have to do now is convert these to sheet metal. Basically, the thing is that the nesting utility, at least as of now, requires that you use a sheet metal flat pattern, which I'll show what it means. But basically, what that means is you can't just make a part and be done with it. If you're going to nest it, and you can do this later after you've made your part, you need to convert it to sheet metal. And then now, if you click sheet metal defaults, here it does this like random thickness here. So just uncheck the box over here and change the thickness manually to whatever the thickness is on your part. So if this was like a 1/4 inch plate, I'd do 0.25. If it's like this plate here, 0.125 or 1/8, you can add fractions. Now what we need to do is hit create flat pattern, and you'll basically see a flat view of your part. Now, I haven't personally run into this problem. I've seen sometimes people have this problem of where when it makes the flat pattern, it instead of going to this face, it goes like that. It just shows them like that kind of edge. So to fix that, you can just select the top face, create a flat pattern. It'll make sure it creates a flat pattern that way. And the way the nesting application works is it takes this flat pattern over here and it basically creates like an array of these flat pieces and figures out what's the best configuration. So you go to folded part. You don't have to, but as long as you have a flat pattern here in your model, you can save the file, close it, forget about it, and then let's do the same thing for the T gusset over here. We want it to be 1/8, and we want to create a flat pattern. Go to folded, save it. All right. So now we can start our nesting. So first step for nesting is you want to source your file. So source. It's the wrong folder. So let's go in here. So there's our gusset 1 and 2. You can select as many files as you want, and it'll do this material mapping pop-up box where basically it'll ask you, so these are the materials you have, and you want to make sure that you're only doing one material at a time. Like you can create a nest with different materials, different thicknesses. It'll group them together, but we only cut one material out at a time, so don't have multiple materials. This also is like a sanity check to make sure that you pick the right files and they have the right thicknesses in them. Because if you didn't set the sheet metal thickness to 0.125 or 25 initially, this would tell you the wrong number here. So hit yes, and then it'll extract the data from these 2 files. And you'll get the check marks here and 100% here, and then you can hit OK. And so this is like the flat pattern I was talking about. So it's like it basically creates like an array of these flat files and figures out how to make them. So once you have all your files, you can hit create, and it'll show you a bunch of stuff. And for some reason on my computer, the box just like goes past the screen resolution, but it's okay. I just press enter, and then it'll calculate it by itself, and there's a nest for you. Now, there's few things you can change. So first, we have to increase the quantity of these gussets because that's what we're doing, right? And then also, if you look, this whole rectangle here has a size to it. So right now it's at 20 by 32. Yours might be different. Now, if I'm cutting this out piece out on, let's say, the Laguna CNC, right? It has a bed of, well, technically it's a 48 by 48 bed, but the last 8 inches are taken up by the 2x1 jig. So if I'm doing a full sheet on the Laguna, what you can do is go on Process Material Library over here, and then go on Packaging. And so you see the 32 by 20 that was there, so I can change this to 48 inches by 40 inches over here. Right, so now if I hit OK, it'll update, or I have to calculate again. And then, yeah, and then you see the rectangle becomes much bigger. Right, now let's say where you're using a scrap piece of aluminum that is exactly like, it's a small piece, it's not a full size, so it's like 10 by, let's say, 8 inches. You just found a scrap piece of aluminum that will fit everything. You just need to change the size here. So you do that, you update it, or didn't update. Packaging, 10 by 8, okay. Oh. Yeah, so you do that, calculate, and it will create this nest here. Right. So you can change around the size like that. In terms of sizes, so as I said, Laguna is 48 by 40. And then the Omeo CNC, if I remember correctly, it's 32 by 19, 20 inches. You can measure that. But yeah, so that's how you can change that. Now to edit the quantities, we can do is just make sure you selected nest here and then go and edit. And then for me, I have to go lower the taskbar a little bit. Okay. Right. So now in the screen here, so here are your quantities. So let's say we want 4 of these gussets and we want 2 of these. Actually, we'll make 3 of these. All right. So that's the quantities. Now, the other important thing here is if you look at item separation, that's the minimum distance between each one of your parts. So basically, what that allows you to do is make sure that when you're cutting it out in real life, the end mill can pass through between 2 parts and not cause problems. So basically, what can happen is when you have like weirdly shaped gussets that are next to each other, when the end mill passes through, it can create like these areas of material that basically are free floating and they can just like come up and shoot out of the CNC while it's running. So to prevent that, what we generally do is, let's say you're using a 1/4 inch end mill or a 6mm because they're basically the same size. So the end mill will pass through one side and then the other side, so that'd be 0.25 plus 0.25, and then you can just add a 0.05 to it. So generally you can do 0.55. I just use that number for basically everything, even if it's like I'm using a smaller end mill. But yeah, just keep in mind that you don't want to have too small of a distance. Right, so when you set that, you hit OK. It'll do more calculating and updating, and there we go. So that's the best way you could find to fit all these pieces, the quantities, in this 10 by 8 space we gave it. Right, so you're done nesting, right? You have like the orientation and everything you wanted. Now in order to cam this, what you have to do is go click sheet, and over here create 3D model. Now you can do multiple things. You can make it like an assembly with multiple part files inside it, or a multi-body part file, which just means that this these like L and T gussets will be multiple extrusions inside one part. I'll show you what that means because it's probably confusing. But you hit create 3D model, check multi-body part file, and uncheck include stock because we don't care about that. Hit OK, and he'll make a new part file. So basically it's a new part file and there's extrusions for each one of the gussets we're putting out. Now, this is a par file, and you can get started on camming it, and you can put it out and have fun. And also, nests are adaptive. So what that means is if I were to go back in here, right, and let's say I wanted to change the hole sizes to, I'll just make it a quarter 20 size just so that's a dramatic change and you can see it. So I dramatically changed quarter 20. Let's go on our nesting here. Alright, so it should, let's see if I go in here, saved it. It's adaptive, so it should update the part file. But that's what it's supposed to do. Or not. Maybe not. Nope, so it is not adaptive.